we sadly lost Riley from Power Trip. So I wanted to pay tribute to Riley. I'm not gonna do this by myself. In fact, I have the absolute pleasure to do this video together with Mr. Thrash himself, DK from the band Exciter and from Banger TV.
We see the picture on your in the cupboard behind you from Riley, the picture, and we obviously have to talk about the impact of Power Trip and their phenomenal album Nightmare Logic, that I think a lot of people will say was the best thrash album in at least a decade, and it's going to be hard to topple that one in the next few years. I know Riley was a friend of you. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I used to say that Lich King Born of the Bomb was the best thrash record of the decade, and then Nightmare Logic came out, and I actually recall having a conversation with Tom from Lich King being like, well,
sorry, man.
yeah, the bar's been set pretty high, and almost every hardcore kid and every metal kid and every punk kid that I knew who had loved the Lich King record kind of looked and was like, all right, well, that was our favorite record, now this is our favorite record.
Yeah.
First time I saw Power Trip, Manifest had just come out. They were very much. I was invited to the show. Terror were playing, and they're friends of mine. And I was invited to the show on the pretense of, yeah, Terror's playing, but you got to see the opening band, Power Trip. They're a hardcore band with guitar solos. That's how it was introduced to me. I'm like, all right, I like this. A hardcore band with guitar solos. Let's fucking do it. So I went and saw Power Trip. And they were like these fucking kids like my age. And you know, I had this moment that I hear Brian Liu talk about in Murder in the Front Row, where the reason he was initially drawn to Metallica instead of any of the other bands was because they were kids his age that looked like him doing something incredible, but yet also relatable. They didn't feel like, it wasn't like looking at, you know, a band full of 60-year-old dudes and be like, well, these guys are rock stars. They're old guys. They're veterans of the industry. I was looking at a bunch of disorganized kids wearing the same Razor shirt that I would wear and doing something that I would do. It was very relatable. So I picked up Manifest that night, got a shirt, hung out with them. Absolute incredible show. They were great. Terror was great. Everyone was great. But, you know, the record, I liked it. I thought the production was still very, like, primitive hardcore, very cavernous sounding vocal. Just, it was awesome, but it was like, you know, it was just a record I would listen to. It was never like, this is the greatest thrash. I didn't even consider them a thrash band at all. To me, it was still very much a hardcore band. And then, holy shit, Nightmare Logic came out. And it's like, they upped the metallic levels. From going from a predominantly hardcore riff-sounding band with riffs based in their love of punk and New York hardcore, it went very much into a metallic hardcore sound, which is super fucking cool. It started being less about the Cro-Mags and more about Razor for me. And that was when I saw a huge change, and Riley's vocals were more clear than ever. The production still had that Arthur Rizk signature, like, bomb shelter style vocal reverb, but like it was way less echoey and like way more focused. Riley sounded in your face, and all the vocal tags, the wows, the yeahs, the ows, all that shit, it was fucking there. And Nightmare Logic instantly became my favorite. I saw them supporting that record, I don't even know how many fucking times. 7 times, 8 times, 12 times. I have no idea. I saw them play house parties. I saw them play little venues. I saw them play big venues. I saw them open. I saw them headline. I flew across the country to go see them. I flew to Texas to play a show with them. Like, it was just very much, that record cycle was incredible for me and for almost every other metalhead, every other punk, and every other hardcore kid. That was the thing I loved about the band, is they really took the elements from all three of the rival genres, if you will, and unified us. You would go to their show and you would see everyone from all the different genres. You would see old dudes, old chicks, young chicks, and everything in between. There was no age gap. There was no gender gap. They were a welcoming and safe band for everyone to like, and frankly, a cool band to like. It became fucking cool to like Power Trip, and I love that. Anytime a band is good enough to create its own legacy, essentially, that it's cool to like the band, more people wearing their shirts, more people talking about it. I don't even want to know. I can't even hypothesize how many copies of Nightmare Logic that Southern Lord sold. How many represses there have been of that record. The record is fucking incredible, and it shook the music world because, I mean, it gets called a thrash record, but it's so much more. It's such a blend of all the different genres, which, rare, man. Punks and metalheads used to beat each other up in the streets, and now we're moshing together at Power Trip shows, right?
You gotta get that moving, England. This is soul sacrifice. Draw about the madness. Speaking was the mistake. Fulfilling your judgment.
You're right. Nightmare Logic brings 80s influences from pure hardcore, pure thrash, also from crossover, especially East Coast crossover bands. But then when I tell people it's like they took the best of 80s thrash crossover and brought it in a modern way. Then at the same time, when people ask, "Oh, what do you mean modern way? Like, do they put in a lot of different influences and do they mix modern genres like some of the bands that we talked about?" But that's absolutely not it. Like, it is an old school record in a way. It doesn't sound dated whatsoever, but it doesn't sound like a modern metal record, And so I just can't put my finger on it. I can't explain it, and I find that is maybe one of the things why I like it so much, is because as somebody who pretends to know a lot about genres and metal and history, I can't put my finger really on it, what makes it so unique. Or I can tell you I can tell you that this bit is what I think is unique, but I can't describe it, and I find it such a challenge, and I love it. I don't know if you have the same feeling.
It's their sixth member. It's Arthur Rizk. That's to sum it up simply. It's their sixth member. It's Arthur Rizk. The man has a fucking ear, and he doesn't have a sound that he applies to every band. He has done records for Soulfly. He has done records for Sacred Reich. He's done records for his own band, Summerlands. He's done records for Power Trip. He is, and I quote Riley Gale, he is the sixth member of Power Trip. Riley says it in the interview I conducted with him for Banger. Arthur is a fucking musical genius, from playing instruments to producing to engineering to capturing tones to understanding musicality. Arthur is an absolute fucking wizard. And I finally got the chance to meet him and play with his band Eternal Champion. And I think he left my hotel room at 6 a.m. It was we had a really good time. Me, him, and Dan Beeler hung out till the sun was coming up in Germany. And, dude, you know what it is? There's no other bands that sounded like that were doing it with that type of attitude at that time. But yeah, there was a certain magic about Power Trip, and honestly, I really do attribute a lot of it to the personalities within the band. Riley specifically, the absolute ringleader, the face of modern heavy metal in this sense. Everyone who met him would tell you. Anyone who knew, whether you knew him for a day or your entire life, you would suggest that you had a very deep personal connection to him, because he was that kind of dude. He exuded that type of dude. He's just like the most huggable guy ever. Honestly, he's like unbelievable. Absolutely stolen away from the earth far too soon. But Nightmare Logic will be an incredibly hard record for any new band to top. And I know that there are metallic hardcore bands that do sound like that, and there are guys that are doing the hardcore vocal with the old school Exodus riffs and violence riffs. I get that. But they're, from everything is so well thought out with that band, from from Blake's fucking Slayer-esque, heavily reverbed out solos to Chris Olsh's like stomp drumming. Like that's the thing, like the record Nightmare Logica really reminds me of like a Hell Awaits type of vibe when thrash didn't used to mean a million beats per minute. There's this element of stomp on that record that is very hard to create. You have to be a very talented songwriter, and your band has to understand the vibe. It's about the bass, the drums, the vocal tags, and the riff. It's all about it all mixing together to create something I like to call the stomp. And stompy riffs are what I'm all about. And Power Trip had tons of stompy riffs, just like Hell Awaits, man. Hell Awaits, dude. Mid-tempo songs that sound heavier than anything you've ever heard in your life. That is a skill.
People will be headbanging to this album for a long time. All right, well, Daniel, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that, you know, definitely wasn't easy with Riley's passing. And I appreciate also you in your Twitch live streams and in the work that you do with Banger, that you're gonna be, you know, you're gonna keep letting people know about that awesome music that the band created in a short period of time. So that's really cool.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. An absolute pleasure. And we'll catch up real soon. I'll see you on stream.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Have a great day, buddy.
This interview, click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.